Caitlyn Clark, obviously Indiana Fever, prior to the game on Thursday night, was asked a question. Mary, do we have that first sound piece of audio? Okay, go ahead and play this Caitlyn Clark question and answer from Thursday night.
It seems no matter what you do or what is done to you, it becomes a topic nationally, and a lot of times it becomes divisive. I wonder from your standpoint how you feel about people using your name in whatever culture wars or whatever wars they're fighting. How do you feel about that?
It's not something I can control, so I don't put too much thought and time into thinking about things like that, and to be honest, I don't see a lot of it. Like I've said, basketball is my job. Everything on the outside, I can't control that, so I'm not going to spend time thinking about that. People can talk about what they want to talk about, create conversations about, whatever it is, but I think for myself, I'm just here to play basketball.
Perfectly reasonable answer. What any parent, I would assume, I'm not a parent, but Jason, you probably would. Hey, tell your kids, hey, control what you can control, focus on keep the main thing. Unfortunately, that very reasonable answer was not satisfactory, and then we got this question.
Caitlyn, I know you mentioned that, you want to focus straight on basketball. We definitely respect that. When, just asking you directly, when people use your name for racism, misogyny, whatever, what is your response to that specifically?
Yeah, I think it's disappointing. I think everybody in our world, deserves the same amount of respect. The women on our league deserve the same amount of respect. So people should not be using my name to push those agendas. It's disappointing.
That was Caitlyn Clark now addressing, again, she was asked about people using her name in quote-unquote culture war. She said, I keep the main thing, can't talk about what we can't control what people talk about. That wasn't enough, followed up, did say that she didn't like people using their names. Jason, are you a fan of Greek history? Because they used to say, I'll just get to the point here. They used to say Helen of Troy was the woman, her face launched 1,000 ships. Caitlyn Clark launched 1,000 takes by simply deciding to say, one, that she's just whatever, whatever. Then when she had the audacity to say, yeah, no, you probably shouldn't be using my name. My goodness, were the takes on fire yesterday, Jason. I know you have a lot of thoughts on not so much what she said, but more so the reaction to what she said yesterday, or Thursday, I should say.
I think the basketball is deteriorating before our eyes. And I mean the basketball in her hand.
Okay.
Because that's not the talk anymore. What she does on the floor is becoming largely irrelevant because everybody wants a piece of Caitlyn Clark for their ideology. They want a piece of Caitlyn Clark so that they can basically use her as a symbol to push whatever it is that they need to push. And that's on all sides. It is. Every one of us has – anybody that says they're completely neutral on anything is a liar. I mean, it's impossible not to have an opinion on something. We talked about not having a scorching hot take, but at the same time, we probably lean in one direction or another. But when it comes to Caitlyn Clark, she's the lightning rod. I remember sending you a message a couple of months prior to, or maybe during the Iowa run in the NCAA tournament, where I said, watch what happens when she gets to the WNBA. And watch how they treat her, and watch how the players go after her, and all of these kinds of things.
You literally said, I'm afraid she might get hurt. And yeah. I was even like, dude, come on. And that was one of the many discourses that I missed. That's not what we're talking about now, but you did say that back in probably February or March.
So what she's being asked to do right now is she's saying, look, I just want to play basketball. She's not out leading rallies, saying anything about anybody. She's not out there speaking against one group or another. All she's doing is being Caitlyn Clark. Now, she's super competitive, and she trash talks like everybody else in the WNBA and everybody else in every team sport. But she is also who she is. She is from the Midwest. She's white. She's straight. She plays basketball at a very high level. And unfortunately, that's just not good enough. It's not good enough on the WNBA side because she needs to be a champion of the message. She needs to be a champion of what they're a champion of, and really she just wants to play basketball. And because her stardom has happened, then everything that she does gets magnified. But to assume that she needs to answer for everybody that goes onto some forum and says something that is objectively racist or whatever like that. And I don't mean the stuff that you try to draw that out of it. I mean like the blatant comments, which I'm sure there are some. I haven't really seen any of them, but I'm sure there are some. It's not her responsibility to do that. We don't ask that of people. At least we don't ask that of one half of the political aisle. One thing that I find fascinating is if you happen to be a conservative politician and somebody does something crazy on your side of the aisle, every single one of them is asked, do you agree with this? Should this be allowed? You need to speak out against this, all this kind of stuff. It doesn't happen on the other side of the aisle. Caitlyn Clark has to answer for all of this because she's not on the right side, because she doesn't fit the right bill. It has nothing to do with her basketball. Whether you want to look at the USA thing, people were bending over backwards to say, from a basketball perspective and a team chemistry perspective, you can't put her on the team and all this kind of stuff. I had my say about that last week. Everybody else has had their say anyway. But they're twisting themselves into knots to try and explain why it's a basketball thing, when nothing about this has anything to do with basketball. I don't even just mean the U.S. thing. I mean, every take that you see is increasingly less about her stats, less about her growth as a player, less about what she's doing as a rookie and where she's learning and where she still has time to grow, and more about the latest person that said something to her or mocked her on the floor or pushed her down, or this person that asked her this question in this press conference, or she didn't have the right answer to this or this and that. And it's sad. As powerful as she could be from a star perspective, I feel true sympathy for her because she cannot just be a basketball player now. She can't just actually go out and do what she says she's doing because they're not going to allow it. They would rather their league fail in a spectacular dumpster fire than her be the face of it. It drives them insane. They can say that this isn't true all that they want, but their actions, their words, and even the mouthpieces in the media seem to make it obvious.
Yeah, no, it's incredible, and it was interesting because again, just being away, you know, you're watching from a distance. I mostly had my phone away, but you would see stuff, and I bring it up because it really just struck me is we're no longer talking about again exactly what you said. We're not talking about, man, she went 5 for 17 from the field last night. What does that mean? She has become, and I think yesterday, Friday, is the most egregious example of it to date. She's a political pawn now. She is the vehicle that people use to make a point about whatever societal ills one way or another.
I want to take your Greek analogy. She's the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
They're inside the Trojan horse. Yeah. They're just using her to then push their point of view.
Yeah, we saw it yesterday. I'm not going to name a name, but we all know who it is. One of the most prominent voices in sports media decided to use her comments about not wanting to comment on Donald Trump, rural America. There was a lot of bizarre takes, and it just struck me. She is no longer a basketball player. She is a political pawn. Everybody is using her as a mouthpiece to get whatever point across they want. And it was funny because I was thinking about, obviously we played all the audio, but it wasn't just the audio. It was then the players in the league that were saying, the whole, how can you not stand up for this? How can you not stand up for that? Blah, blah, blah. And it's just, it's so interesting to me, and I was thinking about this, is that everybody, and I saw even some people are like, she has an obligation to speak out on blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I find it interesting, and it's a question, but it's not a question. It's just wild to me is that, one, that we expect our athletes who literally they're training, they don't have time to read up on the Gaza Strip and, this political issue and that political issue, whatever. But it is kind of amazing, isn't it, Jason? We all want athletes to speak out as long as it's with a message that we agree with. Like when Aaron Rodgers speaks out about the vax, I don't hear a lot of people saying, thank God Aaron Rodgers shared his stance on whatever. But then you have this guy talking about that issue, that girl talking about that issue, and it's like, I give Caitlyn Clark so much credit because she's just not playing the game. She's just not going down the road that people want her to go down, because I truly believe in my heart of hearts she does just want to play basketball, and I actually feel bad that she continues to be put in these situations where people are like peer pressuring her to have an opinion on things that, frankly, she probably just doesn't have an opinion on because she's in the gym playing basketball 12, 13 hours a day.
Yep, that's right. And it's not good enough, and nothing is going to be good enough. There is a movement against her that she's not going to be able to stop. So, look, it's a saddening situation, because now even her basketball stats are not going to be about basketball. When she has 30, it's going to be cheers from one side. And when she has 5, it's going to be cheers from the other side.
True.
Because it's all trying to confirm an existing worldview. It's not about actually learning anything. It's not about letting her be her own person. It's not about any of these things. Since the world made her a star, since the country made her a star, now she's obligated to do all these things. And if she doesn't want to do it, it's not going to be good enough, and she's going to be talked about in really negative ways for a long time. You know, it's not surprisingly, but I think one of the most salient points that I've heard made about Caitlyn Clark's situation came from Serena Williams.
Yep.
Serena Williams on Thursday said, I love that she tries to stay grounded. She says she doesn't look at her social media. I get it. I don't either. I think it's so important to just continue to do what she's doing, no matter what other people do. If people are negative, it's because they can't do what you do. Hopefully she'll continue to do what she's doing. And then you've got veteran reporters writing things like, well, Caitlyn Clark finally got it right, and all this other kind of stuff, and throwing all this stuff at her because she doesn't have this political stance or that. Think about her age. Think about her rookie season and how she's learning and she's growing and all of these things. But no, she has to speak out against everything that you want her to speak out against. And if she happened to be speaking out for things that you didn't like, it wouldn't be good enough either. She can't even have her own opinion.
Yep.
She has to have yours. Mm-hmm. If she doesn't have yours, she loses. And if she doesn't have any, she loses. So what is she supposed to do? She's supposed to say, I'm just concentrating on the basketball, which is exactly what she said. And guess what? That wasn't enough either. This has become tiresome, and it honestly is exposing everyone except Caitlyn Clark.
Yeah, so really quick, that's the last thing. We're up against it. What I keep going back to, I understand why listen, I don't think it's right. I think players, I hate to say it, I'm just going to say it, I don't care if it's unpopular, should be grateful for the audience that she's brought in. But where is the commissioner? Like, where are the adults in the room? I don't even know. I don't even know how to fully explain it, but it's like, where is the commissioner showing any level of gratitude, having her back publicly? I don't know. I feel like this is such a colossal failure at every level of basketball. The Olympic Committee, the WNBA, the Indiana Fever, teammates not having her back, coaches not having her back, whatever.